Keon, a man who follows directions, which is something I respect in this day and age. Jonathan Furman. Jonathan's going to be looking for some 10 June stories. We'll see what he has to contribute in the comments tonight. Mike Silverman, the man who made it all happen. Very nice. There's our guest. Alana, just to be clear, I'm going to say I actually prefer. Okay, you know something? Let's pop Mark in right now. MB,
What's up, buddy?
how's it going?
I'm good. I brought the Manischewitz.
You did. I brought mine as well. My
It's really
burgundy.
not Manischewitz, but it looks like Manischewitz.
Exactly. Yeah, I
I don't want
gotta
to
be.
open with a lie. I don't want to be like Trump.
No, no. Listen, this
You know.
this is an honest broadcast. We're about the real news, not the fake news. So we're not. We're going to be honest and forthright about everything, including our wine.
I do love Manischewitz, oddly enough, in small doses.
Interesting. What other kosher foods and beverages do you integrate on? You know, am I thinking that maybe there was like a gefilte fish experience of yours at one point that kind of triggered the inspiration for catch? Where did the seafood thing come from? What's your history with kosher foods?
Gefilte fish is the example of what you must grow up eating or you don't eat at all. Someone describes gefilte fish, which I've tried to do to my fiance Tori a number of times on Passovers, even selling it with like the white or red horseradish, irrelevant.
I,
So
if
yeah,
only
it was
our Mark, if only our ancestors, when they came up with something as pungent as gefilte fish, where there are no, tall blonde shiksas around, imagine that a woman like Tori would be eating gefilte fish. They never would have seen it coming.
never,
Not in a million years.
never.
And since we're
That
being
between that and
honest,
chopped liver, it's just woof.
oh God, it's just
But
there's
I love it.
yeah, yeah. Listen, it's the Jews. We've had some harsh experiences. We've grown from it, so it's good that we are able to embrace that in the modern age and then transcend it.
Fact.
Absolutely. So Mark, why
Yes,
don't
sir.
why don't we get started? Give us the rundown. Well, you know something, I would be remiss since we are starting. This is somewhat of a Shabbat ceremony, and this is a sacred event. I want to take you back to another sacred Jewish event that you were part of, and that would be Jesse Morris's bar mitzvah.
Oh my God. Where did you
There we
find
go.
that?
You have to talk to Mr. Morris. We'll have to talk to our boy. There's a young Mark Birnbaum helping Jesse
Jesse
Morris.
Morris is one of four,
Is he?
as you know.
I,
Jesse
I
Morris is a quadruplet. And a little tidbit on that is that he was I think the first quad successful in vitro fertilization ever, because they were on the news, and Robin and Danny, friends with my parents from college, and I've known them since they were literally this big. Sabrina, Jesse, Tyler, and Paul.
I got to be. Jesse submitted that unprompted that picture earlier today. I knew it was going to come to good use. Had no idea that it was going to lead to a conversation about groundbreaking in vitro quadruplets. I did not see that coming.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I can't believe it. Okay,
And
so
Fauci was helping out.
isn't he all? He's pretty much going to be responsible for the next year and a half worth of births. We're all going to trace it back to Fauci. So Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Obviously in nightlife, it's interesting trajectories of where guys get started and where they, and where they take their careers and kind of segue into entrepreneurship and particularly in the way that you have. So why don't you tell us about how you got started and what your path was to where you are now?
Sure, I tend to be long-winded, so cut me off when necessary. My partner
No,
usually does it all the time, so it's fine.
I like long.
The long story of it is my first taste of nightlife was when I was a senior in high school. I sold tickets to after prom parties in New York City, so like 18 and over kind of places. And I sold it to my high school, some in Roslyn, Wheatley High School, and the surrounding area. And if I didn't know anyone in that area, I recruited somebody and split the commission with them, which I thought was incredible because, I think I had an allowance of $20 a week at the time. And the fact that I could make $10 a couple and everyone wanted to go because our proms were in Manhattan, even though we were Long Islanders. And it was really a first dose of making money, providing fun for people that everyone already wanted to do. It seemed like a pretty easy thing. It's like selling lemonade stands to a hot, sweaty, sporting event outside. It seemed pretty simple. So I liked that. And I didn't know that that would ever become a career, obviously. But then when I went to college, I looked for opportunities to still in the summertime promote, for like John Bashi, Craig Koenig, Shlomo, Unique, Kiki, whoever was doing their thing in the summertime. And again, I'd have a guest list, $10 a head I'd make a, commission on, and I would, go down 30 times and get thrown away from the door just checking my list, see if I could make $500 or $800 or $1,200, which is seemed like if I got, 50 people. So I liked that. It gave me a little bit of a feeling of being needed because I granted access to something that was in theory difficult to get into if you weren't on a guest list. So that was fun. And then in college, a guy from Yonkers, it's a long story, but he came up to run this giant 22,000 square foot nightclub space, which was a Masonic temple in the town of Ithaca, where Cornell and Ithaca is. I went to Ithaca.
I'm a Cornell grad. Yeah, very familiar.
Well done. And so I overheard him speaking in a pizzeria one day, talking about I'm going to open up a nightclub, and he was looking for managers and help. And I said, hey, I work in nightclubs in New York City. I embellished a little bit of what I did and said I could easily do it. So I wound up becoming a manager of that nightclub at 20, still not legal drinking age, funny enough, and threw my own party on Wednesdays called Mark B Presents Wednesday Night Chills. Made a flyer on print shop in my dorm room, printed it at Kinko's, and had the pledges of both Cornell and Ithaca fraternities flyer parking lots, because this was really before email or even texting or group anything. So we would dorm flyer for the party, and we would flyer the parking lots all day the day before.
Street team type of activity.
Straight street team.
Yeah.
And it was great, and I was making money, and I thought, how amazing I could make some money doing, again, something that was fun, and stayed in that path. When I got out of college, I went directly into life insurance selling and financial planning, which was completely opposite of anything I'd ever even thought of doing, but I just did it. It's another long-winded story of why that happened, but it made me enough money that I could move out of my parents' house 1 year later and moved into Manhattan at 22. And I was miserable, frankly. I didn't enjoy doing it at all, but I needed money, and it was the only job I had. I never thought I could make a career out of doing nightclub promotion or anything in that industry, because it just wasn't something that I understood at the time.
You probably enjoyed it so much, you almost figured, as us Jews do, that nothing this enjoyable can be something we can do for our life and for our career. This is something leisurely and fun, but to then think that this could be actually a real business and a real career. I mean, I'm sure there must have been a bit of a light bulb moment for you at some point.
Yeah, the light bulb, I think I was like at Sweet 16 one night watching Noah and Jason work their magic. And Richie Akiva, the guys that came before I did, and was jealous of them, frankly, and envious of them, and thinking these guys turned exactly what I would have loved to have somehow figured out to do for a living in Manhattan, which is a scary place to do anything. So after making money for a year, enough to barely live on my own, I really fucked off for a year. After that, I worked a little bit in Great Neck, Long Island, selling life insurance from Northwestern Mutual, but went out 7 days a week with a group of people and kind of observed and got to know who were the players involved, and established decent relationships that I had from promoting back in college to new people, the guys that own Chaos and Pangea and all these clubs that were going on in New York City. And there's a crazy story about how I met my first entree into the nightclub business was post September 11th. A friend of mine was working at the Tribeca Grand Hotel, and he always talked about wanting to open a nightclub. And unfortunately, my friend died of cancer at a young age, also at the same time as the World Trade Center fell, and I was near there. So I was freaked out enough to say, fuck it. I'm only going to do what I enjoy from this point forward. And it was really like a parallel path moment where I was on one trajectory doing something I didn't like at all, but I needed to do it for the money. and then broke off into saying fuck it and just do what you like, and having no idea if I would make money doing it or not. But it wasn't the point. It was just, I want to go to sleep at night happy and looking forward to the next day. And, you know, my friends watching this obviously have heard this story and they're making fun of me. But the long story short of it is that I always thought that TGIF was a bullshit statement, because it meant to me that, like, you're so psyched it's the weekend, but you're not that happy during the week. I just thought, if I'm doing what I love, there is no Saturday and Sunday fun, or the misery of Sunday night being like, oh, I got to get up early and go to work the next morning. Instead, I was like excited for the next day, no matter what day it was. And every day to me is basically Friday. And I felt that way ever since. I've had ups and downs, obviously, and miserable days, but I didn't care at that point. Again, seeing the World Trade Center fall a block and a half away from you or whatever, and your friend dying at a young age was enough to push me off the ledge. So we went into the nightclub business at like 24, 25 years old, and figured out and opened this place, Lobby. And that was pretty much it. From Lobby on, I focused really on nightlife with no aspiration whatsoever of becoming a restaurateur, going into the restaurant business, because I wasn't born into the restaurant business. I didn't work in the restaurant business. And I certainly couldn't say that I knew what was going to happen in the future. So I really just led with fun first. If we made money doing it, great. And I just met everyone I could possibly meet and took care of the most amount of people that I was aspiring to be around. You know, it was never like A-list celebrities then. It was like Scarlett Johansson at 23, or people that were assistants at magazines at 21, 22, 23. My contemporaries were all in their low 20s. And I took care of them like rock stars no matter what. And as we grew older, Eugene and I always said this phrase, which is, we are our demographic. We grew with our demographic. What we like, we felt that others, our age group, or plus or minus a decade, would also like. And that's been sort of our focus of just, that's where the restaurant business eventually evolved into. And there's a story about that of, you know, going into the SDK side, and 10 June, our first nightclub with Eugene and I together. But that came 4 or 5 years later, after Air and the consulting company and other bullshit things that I had to like hustle to do. But by the time 10 June rolled around, everything was falling into place. The meatpacking district was the beginning of the meatpacking district. The economy in 06, 07 was just exploding. We didn't even understand that. I didn't know that though. Like, I understood that people were spending a lot, and I couldn't believe it, for tables and whatever, with Alex Julian tormenting them at the door for an extra person, $1,000. It was nuts. And Eric Marks running around, and Danny Vogt, who are on here. I see you guys.
And Barry,
bullshitting down in the comment section.
That's why I have both the red and the white.
The
so
peanut
no matter
gallery.
how long Mark talks for, I got enough wine for both of them. And
gotta go a little.
First off, Tori, since she seems to have totally misinterpreted, Tori, ask around. If Matt Belinsky says the word shiksa, it is a compliment like you could not believe.
Yeah, newsflash, she's a Jew, buddy. She's a tall blonde Jew. Yeah, she's the one.
I'm sorry,
unicorn.
This is a bridge too far for me to believe. But
she's been called a shiksa her whole life, trust me. And every time we tell people, as we stand at the Y School Temple every Friday, people look at us like.
John Cohen and his lovely wife Dana, two good friends of mine, could tell, and I love that, you know, friends of mine from different walks of life are coming together around, you know, children's sports. But either Tori, trust me, the shiksa comment, it's ask around. If Matt Belinsky refers to you as a shiksa, it's a compliment. Okay, despite the people in the comments suggesting that you need to move on, this is I find this fascinating, the narrative here fascinating. So the other piece before we get into more contemporary issues is, describe the experience of going from an operator, non-owner, to a true owner and a true entrepreneur.
Our first real ownership role was with 10 June. We had, you know, like 2% of SDK, and we helped, you know, create that menu back then. And we got a free entree into the restaurant business with the One Group on Little West 12th Street, while we were really focused on 10 June, Eugene and I's birthday, June 10th. We called it 10 June because we felt like no one will believe that we own a club. So let's call it something that at least we could say, look, our birthday. Yeah. and it was different in the way of responsibility for the first time, where if something was great, we felt it, but if something was bad, we really felt it. And there was a number of, things in our careers that didn't go perfectly, which we had a meeting today with a lot of our staff, that have been furloughed, and we talked to everybody. But what I really reflect on during this period is the learning experience of the past has really brought us to today. And I'm skipping a little bit forward, obviously, but you need to have those failures and freakouts and scares and arguments and screaming matches with partners and losing money and reinvesting and losing it. I mean, we went into '08 at Abe and Arthur's, our first restaurant on our own. We were essentially, we signed the lease and started doing basic construction. We hadn't raised the money yet, but we had just enough to start. And that's when the news came out about, the crash of Lehman Brothers and Too Big to Fail and AIG. Yeah. And we're like, who's that and what's that? We didn't even know. We were literally 29 and 28 years old. Might have been 30, whatever. But the point is, we didn't see it coming, and we were completely going in head first without really looking around at anything.
And that's a lot of entrepreneurs. What they say is they weren't sharp enough to know how dangerous it was. They didn't know of the risks, and looking back on it, that they were avoiding landmines wherever you could look, but they were so intent and so focused on the task at hand that they just didn't even necessarily notice, what some of those landmines were.
Well, it gave me some comfort that even the smart people didn't see it coming,
Sure.
So but we weren't by any means Wall Street people or even paying attention to the news, frankly, about economies and understanding a bubble burst or a housing market crash or any of it. We just didn't understand, which is fine. Everything happens for a reason. I do believe that. And it was a learning experience that taught us, hey, wow, when they're talking about the Great Depression is upon us in '08 and the biggest crash of our lifetime and bailouts and all kinds of stuff. And we're like, Jesus, we just are about to open a new restaurant. Should we not? Should we walk away?
Yeah.
Should we just forget it? But ultimately we looked at each other, Eugene and I, and we're like, look, we're young. We have literally nothing else to do. If the business model from high-end steaks and expensive bottles for sale are no longer going to be the thing, because there's food lines and all the shit that they were talking about that was really a doomsday scenario for a period of time, we'll have to pivot. And it reminds me today of then to pivot again, but instead of freaking out, we're calmer about it. And I don't want to skip to today if you don't want to, but it all matters, and it all mattered. And fortunately, the world didn't come to an end in '08 and '09. It wasn't great, and it wasn't the past, but everything changed.
Sure.
Prices came down. People didn't overspend. We didn't overhire. We had an amazing team, and we were different. We were a different thing than just a traditional restaurant, and we saw that effect happen. We were also blindly stupid to open a restaurant in a bad time when the smart people didn't. When the dust cleared, I call it the Forrest Gump moment, which is where he stupidly went out on the shrimp boat. The storm hit. The smart guys stayed on the shore, but they got destroyed. Well, the smart guys didn't really open restaurants or nightclubs for a period of time, which gave us a bit of an advantage. We were the newest game in town. The clouds cleared. They realized it wasn't so horrific. So they came out, and we didn't have to change our business model from high-end steaks to burgers and pizza and a nightclub that would be, $5 to get in and drink all night. And it wasn't that we didn't shift to that. We talked about it. The old school no table dance club, we did.
Uh-huh. No, and those are amazing lessons that do inform a lot of what we're going to be talking about, within the framework of what we're staring at now, and just how there's a certain resilience to the American consumer. And the American consumer, they like doing stuff. They are aspirational. They're ambitious, even during tough times, and they bounce back quickly. And who knows, this this is sui generis. This is the first of its kind moment that we're looking at right now and going to be dealing with over the next year or two. But you can, to a certain extent, count on the American consumer trying to find a way, and business people and people who are trying to put themselves in front of demand like yourself, trying to find that path to what the most efficient way to do that is. So, okay, to take us to our, and we're going to get back to some of the old stuff, but to take us to our present moment. I remember back in September, I think it was, I was in New York, was with our good old Barry Bayat. He's dominating the comments, as Ryan Stonerock did predict that he would. And
Barry has very little to do, so it's okay.
You know,
give Barry his little types.
Yeah, he's got to.
But I will shout out Rumors Rose. It's terrific. He's working very hard on it. The guy traveled so much in the last year. It's really mind-blowing. And it's a successful venture that is being slowed right now by this, as is everybody. But I will give him his props. I was super impressed with his entrepreneurial spirit and really took it on by himself. And as annoying as he is to me, I love him very much. So
absolutely. I mean, the only thing more powerful than his entrepreneurial spirit is his collection of drop crotch pants. I mean, it's
the longest ever. You would think his balls are to his knees. They may in fact be, which is why he wears them. I'm not entirely sure.
Got it. I think it'll be better for, the rumors, playing into rumors, whatever the rumors are about Barry's penchant for drop crotch pants. We'll just keep on speculating for the moment on that.
The hippest guy ever.
He's one of a kind.
He's so hip. I was going to wear a turtleneck in honor of Jason Pomerantz, who I watched him on the other night, but I didn't have one. So I went with the frayed collar. So it looks, just not perfect. Perfectly imperfect.
Exactly. Who wants to
Jason was great, by the way. It was a good interview. It motivated me to do this.
100%.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy, and just taking a really diligent perspective on any topic at hand, and can discuss such a variety of topics, and always love speaking with Jason, and just a great guy. And so Barry, we like, let's go check out Catch Steak. It's going to open in a week. Mark's going to give us a tour real quick. So we go over, and I mean, the thing that came through just in getting the tour of the place was just the grandeur and the size and the scope of it. And that you outright said it. I was like, listen, either this is, I mean, our bullseye is so small because we're aiming to be essentially the most highly trafficked restaurant in America, or in the conversation. You guys, clearly it's a part of your governing philosophy and your fundamental approach towards business to be big, bold, and to, like I said, anticipate that people want a really aspirational, positive, fun experience. So now we're coming up against a period, and trying to chart out your strategy for how you're going to reopen and manage this upcoming period. How do you square that with, an environment that might be a little more dour, a little more reserved, and something where, you guys have found so much success going guns blazing, but you might have to keep the gun in your holster a little bit as you proceed?
Yeah, a few things. It's true, our business model is great when it works, and it's very dangerous when it doesn't work perfectly. The restaurant business in general, as everyone talks about, is a very difficult, if not the hardest business there is to go into. It's high risk, it's low margin, it's so many things have to go right for it to work. I call it the 90% or above business, because if you wrote a business plan and you don't hit 90 to 95 to 99% really of everything that you expect to do, you don't just fail, you don't just struggle, you go out of business.
Sure.
Most of the time I always thought, man, if I got an 80 or an 85 in school, I was killing it. But no, in this one, it's, and frankly, you have to exceed your expectations, because I think when you raise money or when you do projections for people, you actually do a conservative projection, which is okay at best. You hope to exceed your best case scenarios. And, in pitching people to raise money back in the day in LA specifically, you come out to LA and you talk to people about what you plan to do, and they look at you like you're basically saying that if you're not the highest grossing restaurant in California or in Los Angeles, you don't make $1. Tough to raise money with that. But it's true, unfortunately. Like, we had to do so much to make so little, ultimately. So how do you do that safely? One answer would be years of experience, but I've learned that experience really doesn't necessarily get you anywhere with the next new risk. A little bit of luck, which is hard work and opportunity. But look, we looked at things like large spaces as our thing, and we went with it. So we threw our dice on the table and hope we didn't crap out every single time. We did expand earlier on in our careers with large spaces that didn't do well, and we accept that, unhappily, but happily because it was a learning experience. Again, 5 years ago we were facing potential bankruptcies and just being out of business or whittling down to one restaurant, calling it a day.
Yeah.
And it happened. We just had Catch New York and Lexington Brass in Midtown, and that was it. And then we focused and polished the one thing that we had that was working, which was Catch, and evolved it and grew with that. And then slowly and surely we did in fact expand to Los Angeles, which turned out to be a great opportunity with that rooftop space, and it was unique and special. And then to Las Vegas, and then with Catch Steak. And yes, Catch Steak is only 5 months in, and this happened, but it was rolling on quite well, and I'm confident that it will continue to do so. But it's scary. These are big build outs, millions of dollars on the line, hundreds of employees at each store. And everybody's got a reason to work there and succeed, for us to succeed, so that they have a livelihood. And it's a tremendous amount of responsibility. And the worst thing about today is really that, it's like the amount of employees we had that are no longer working by no fault of their own or us, really.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is that we did build a brand that we believe that people loved. We were busy up until the day we closed. I jokingly said LA is a little bit crazier than New York. New York was down significantly for a week before we closed. LA had an hour wait 2 nights before we closed, so it's like, says something about California or LA or whatever, but or warm weather and a rooftop with open roofs.
I think that might have to do with it for sure.
But it's a big part of what we do. Indoor, outdoor spaces, large spaces, because they are more than just food. Our catchphrase has always been food, service, and vibe. Every single one of those are essential, and you come for all three. But the food and the vibe is everything. So you're not just getting a piece of steak or a sushi roll and a dessert and going home. You have an experience, and we hope that experience is something that people will be striving for when things get back to whatever it's going to get back to.
For sure. And in terms of that's a little more strategic and philosophically how you're going to return. Now maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're envisioning in terms of the specifics. What's a restaurant going to look like in July, August, September 2020, as opposed to what it was previously? In terms of composition, how the employees, more of the specifics. And then it was a comment a question in the comments was, and this is something that I think is super relevant as part of the hotel conversation with Jason. It was really interesting. I'd love to hear the restaurant version. To what extent, if any, is certain technology that may have tiptoed around the restaurant business now going to be integrated into the restaurant experience that may be accelerated in this upcoming period?
I'd love to say I know, but I don't. I can tell you that what I do know is that it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Technology, we've all heard probably the same stuff. Temperatures at the door, mask gloves, 50% capacities, in the beginning, or 25% like you see in Texas tomorrow. Whether or not people are going to be comfortable sitting near other people, stranger danger. It's like you've got these ideas that, if I have a table and then an empty table and another table, all will be okay. I kind of just view this whole thing as the government can tell you what is allowable. And I wish that the government knew more than us. But in this case, they don't. And that's fine. I don't expect them to. But this is such a new thing for everybody. Where, like, I used to think teachers knew better and they don't. I used to think my parents knew all the answers and they don't. Doctors knew the answers and they don't. I think people that had Corona early on And still, the unknown answer from the doctor is very frightening. That alone, where the doctor says, I can't tell you for sure, and I really don't know, is a big part of this alarm, because the professionals usually know at least the answer or have the cure or whatever, the solution. So everything I say is a hypothesis. It's a positive one because I think we've got so much negativity out there. I'm tired of it to a degree, but I also think it's overblown. And I don't want to diminish the deaths. I don't want to diminish the fear, the people at risk. I've got two friends. One came off the ventilator today. The other one is still on. My friend Nick lost his leg during this ordeal because of blood clot and complications, and then had a pacemaker put in, had fungus in his lungs, pus in his lungs, internal bleeds, strokes, and he's 41. I'm 42. So I can't say that I don't take it seriously for, just because the media told me to. No, I take it serious because I'm seeing it. And I had a friend very early in early March that we all know that came back from Italy, and I think he's in his late 30s, a good, pretty good health as far as I can tell. He's by no means an old man who had health conditions, and he went on a ventilator without symptoms at that point. So it freaked me out from early March until today. But I read a great article that one of our managers sent to me today in Forbes, actually, about restaurants, and that they will not only come back strong, but they will thrive, or they will not only survive, but they will thrive. And in it, it was really about the past. And they dated all the way back to like the Napoleon era. But if we want to go into a little bit more modern era, World War I, World War II, Hurricane Katrina, Sandy, World Trade Center, September 11th, crashes. There have been horrific things that have happened over periods of life. And the first business to come back, or the ones that remained open, that were not the essential doctors and hospitals and banks, were restaurants.
Yeah.
And it's because people are still people. We were people 100 years ago that had a mentality of, I'm so excited to get back to normal. And in the Diary of Anne Frank, they wrote, they were trapped during the Holocaust, hiding for their lives, freaking out, obviously at the highest of levels, fearing that you can't go outside. And the things that they missed the most were congregating with people at restaurants, or going to drink, wine and have good whatever they were eating at the time, and doing the things that people fundamentally love to do. Congregate, eat out at restaurants, be social. None of that will change. There will be the way that we get there, and it may be slow, but I have zero doubt that if we talk about this in 12 to 18 months or 24 months, and it may take a year, and it may take 2 years, we will have more restaurants in 3 to 5 years than we have today. Just like we have more restaurants today that we had in '08, just like in World War II, the Great Depression, there were more and more and more, and it always grows. So it's just a question of when.
Yeah.
Not just for us, but for everybody. And yes, restaurants will close and restaurants will open, equal to the amount of closures in time. I don't know if that answers your question. Technology and all that stuff is great, but the mood has to change. The narrative has to change. The public narrative has to change, with some good news, some boredom, some being sick of being told bad news. And we need to look for the good news and then promote that, not just a ticker with death tolls every single day on every single news channel. Because if they did do that with the flu, we would be afraid of the flu. And if they do that with car accidents, where over 1 million people die every single year in a car crash in America, it's an essential thing to drive. So, okay, but 1.2 million a year die in a car. Do we fear getting into a car every single second of the day and look around that we're going to get killed in a car accident? We do not. Mm-hmm. We're cautious. We're cautious when we drive, hopefully. And we take precautions that are necessary, like seatbelts and speed limits or whatever. Those are rules put in place so we don't go from 1.2 million to 5 million.
And so, no, but and your point, and why this is a different situation to process, is because all the things that you say, when able to zoom out and take a rational view of it, are completely correct. Number one. And number two, we have to get back to real life, and planning to get back to real life, part of that is understanding the risk factors within the perspective of all what you just described. that we can't avoid things that have societal utility, like driving a car or going to a restaurant, because there might be some risk to it. Okay.
Well, I would say driving a car is a necessity, but I would also say leaving your house, going to work, and living life is a necessity.
Sure.
That's what we're up against. So
Yeah.
it's the same to me.
Yeah. And I know Cisco's trying to butt in about the conversation that he roped me into earlier this morning. But anyways, the reason that the piece of this is that the trigger here, the flu, it's baked into society mentally, even if irrationally this could be compared to it. The human mind is irrational. So when something new comes around that's a new threat, it becomes, we immediately get our antennae up even more. It becomes irrationally more fearful because society doesn't have the processes tangibly, medically, and psychologically in place to encounter that, because there's so much unknown. You know what happens when you get the fucking flu, okay? For the most part, your life sucks for a week or two, you get back to it. We hear some stories about some people dying. But
not really. I didn't know that 30 million people or 40, 50 million people are dying from the flu every year. I actually didn't know that. I got news. I didn't read a thing about it every year.
Mark, okay, not to get too deep down this conversation, there's something I'll send you afterwards. Some scientific journals right now are polling doctors and asking, you've worked in an emergency room, you've worked in a hospital, have you ever encountered a case of death from the flu? And they're like, I got to be honest, no. So just like there might be some miscalculations in calculating deaths from the flu, from corona, there might be some miscalculations in these numbers. It seems to be saying 30 to 60,000 people a year. Who the hell knows? I think we're going to have to dive into.
But they say that about HIV. You don't die from you die from the complications of your failed immune system. I get it, but
yeah,
still, it's a nuts statistic.
Exactly. But the point being is that the reason that even if our rational mind can compare this situation, this risk to the flu or a car accident, because it's a new one, it's more impactful. So we assumed we took that hit, and now that we took that hit and we've stabilized society a little bit, now we've got to be able to put that in perspective and open back up and start returning back to life, with all the perspective that you mentioned right there. And that's something, and people like yourself, and what we've talked about is that it takes leadership one way or the other. And we've seen that even, leadership in the public sector seems to be lacking, whether it's the federal government or even some of the people that seem to be doing very well, like an Andrew Cuomo, who is doing fairly well, but seems to kind of be benefiting a little bit from the low expectations. Like, hey, simply the fact that he's been able to communicate firmly and crisply has, since nobody else can, seemingly, has really reflected well on him. But it's got to be leadership, whether it's our elected politicians, private business people like yourself, or some interplay of the two.
Well, we're all followers at the end of the day. And that's not a bad thing, but it is what it is. We are, a person is smart and people are stupid. We follow the herds. And until the leadership, and yeah, you're right about Cuomo, who I really like. I mean, I'm a New Yorker ultimately. I love Cuomo, frankly, and I wish he was running for president. I'll just say it.
Sure.
But mainly because he's young, he gets it, he's informed, he has answers that make sense. I could follow it. I mean, the bar is very low right now, just to get me somebody that I can understand that makes a clear point from beginning to end on both sides. But I don't want to get too political, but leadership is everything right now. And I used to separate my own personal life from politics in every way. I didn't really care. I was like, the president matters, I guess, as a good representative of America, but I never felt such need for leadership before. Someone who's able to dictate, a good team of people to do something, follow a plan and execute it, to report back to us and get really honest answers that are informative and relevant, without being political at these times. So we don't have that right now, unfortunately. It's very political, but that might be why we're in this mess, to a degree, because it's an election year, and I have no idea, because these things are way above our pay grades, of what's really going on. I just don't know. Could it be that as long as this narrative is chaos, you see Trump, you don't see Biden on the news waves? If I never see Biden really giving a speech or no rallies or anything, how do you win an election? So there's got to be some of that. And if they just trickle in just enough good news with the light at the end of the tunnel coming and coming all the way through November, is it possible that as wartime presidents get reelected, we say, well, we can't change the guard now, it's too risky. Everything is just about to happen good, so you can't risk it. Is that possible? Probably. I honestly, like I said, I don't know, and I don't claim to know what the back end of politics is really going on. But it is very clear to me, and what I do know is that it's playing a role, and I wish it wasn't. And that's what's really disappointing to me. And I think to a degree, although Cuomo is playing politics too, he's at least wearing it on his sleeve and calling it
Sure.
out. But you know, leadership is key, and he's killing it to me. He's great.
Yeah, and here was a very interesting. Got invited to this private group this morning. That was kind of a limited private Zoom of the Arizona Governor Doug Ducey and Colorado Governor Jared Polis. And these guys were pretty good. Jared Polis is a relatively liberal Democratic governor of Colorado. Doug Ducey, I think, started Cold Stone Creamery and is like a very libertarian, conservative Arizona governor. And the thing is these guys, they have so much on their plate. There's so many things that tangible to-do items that they have to be in charge of. They don't have time to fuck around. They don't have time to be up there posturing. And so these guys, one definitely slants towards the conservative side, and one slants towards the more liberal side. They spoke one after another, and they were pretty similar to each other. They're both pretty similar in style and pretty similar in how they described what they were going to do in terms of opening their state up. And even at the end, Doug Ducey said, like, listen, me and the governors, we're not that polarized. We get along. Like, we have states to take care of. We can't be sitting there posturing on cable news channels and playing to the electorate and trying to do clickbait and all that. So, I mean, I think that it's, the local seems to, local, whether it's a Governor Cuomo or a Jared Polis or these guys, because they have to be more technicians, like a business owner like yourself, you can't necessarily fuck around with politics too much because you have employees, you have to make payroll, right? So the people who have more skin in the game and more responsibility seem to have sharpened their sword more, as opposed to people on the national level that, are making their way just off engineering wins and elections over and over again. And that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all starts at the top, and it's happening that way because we have no choice, and they have no choice because the leadership from the top. And I understand governors can make their own decisions, but it's starting to feel like a segregated country, and very much like every man for himself to a degree, which again is disappointing because, the fact of the matter is that it's not even an American problem, it's a global problem, let alone the fact that it's not a state by state problem. Like to think that one state opening prematurely because a governor has an opinion on why he's doing so doesn't affect the states around him or the world. It does. I mean, travel's down, but it does. And when I heard about Macau closing in China in February, Macau hotel, casinos, whatever, closing because of the Chinese virus, the virus that was in China, not the Chinese virus, the virus in China. My first thought wasn't like, oh shit, it's going to come here then. This is horrible. My first thought was, oh man, maybe I should short those stocks. You know what I mean? Like, or like some selfish, stupid thought. No different than when September 11th happened and a plane hit the Trade Center. My first thought, as was many, what a horrible accident that was. When the firefighters ran into the building to save lives, or when the people sat back down in their chairs after the building got hit, they didn't think the building would fall. But I can assure you that now we would have a different opinion, right? If a plane hits a tower of some sort, our first thought is terrorism. If a bomb goes off, if a noise happens, a backfire of a car, everything is terrorism, because we've been trained to think that way. Well, I can assure you now that if a virus or something pops up in any part of the world, it's no longer just Africa's problem, I don't think. It's our problem. And when you and I hope that the good that comes out of this, I pray that the world hunger problem and the global warming problems and all that stuff, it doesn't take the actual White House to melt down from heat of the sun to then say, well, gee, I guess we should now take it seriously. Or a virus that pops up somewhere, or starvation. It all is related. and we're all affected by it because of the way air travel is and how easy it is to get around. So I'm hopeful that I pray that like we no longer waste the trillions of dollars on defense of America and war shit that we can humanly decide not to do. This is a choice.
Yeah.
Well, things like this are not a choice. We need to prevent it and be aware of it and be more aggressive. And I'm sure we will. Again, I hope we will. You would think if there's a little flare up somewhere about something like Corona 6 in the future, that the response is so overwhelming that it never happens again. That would be nice.
Absolutely.
And that would be the result of this, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think the way that I've termed it, and I've poked around this a little bit, you know, in my lives, and I haven't really gotten into it, is that, you know, the America, the last 25 to 30 years since the end of the Cold War, is pretty much in a unique position that in modern times, there's never been one country that was this dominant on the world stage. And after, you know, younger people, they don't fucking remember in the 80s, like every day you woke up and you had a rival. You had the right. We now we look back, we knew that we ended up beating them, but the Russians were someone to challenge us on the world stage. And a writer for the New York Times, kind of the resident, like respectful, thoughtful, conservative Ross Dout, that he's really tapped this button about America having become a really decadent society since the end of the Cold War, in that not having any real challenge, not having any real rival has made us soft, for better, for worse.
It doesn't seem boring though at this point, like in comparison to like what we're facing today.
That's part of it.
These other things are like manufactured drama.
Yeah.
We're manufacturing that drama. What we're dealing with today is something that we must deal with, and that's not you know, we have no choice. Like for there's horrible things that go on in the world. We can't solve all the world's problems, whatever. And I'm sure there's going to be terrorism. I'm sure there's going to be problems. There's probably going to be little, you know, type bits of like threats of war and all that shit. But it does seem right now quite infantile and useless.
Absolutely.
And a waste of our resources, for Christ's sake. Solve the homeless problem instead of defense. Start with that.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of things. And part of decadence is that you kind of you fall into a malaise. You get comfortable with not solving problems. And this is the way that he termed it, that I read this article 4 years ago in the lead, right? It was actually right after, no, 3 years ago, right after the election in 2016. I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened. And he's like, isn't it strange that we have this super, really powerful, ostensibly technologically advanced and wealthy nation, yet we can't solve any of the problems we seem to have?
I think it's a wake-up call. It's a reflection on ourselves that we didn't see and care about.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we defund all these things that are now super important won't happen again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like hindsight over and over again. You know, to go micro back to our subject of restaurants and New York and LA and Las Vegas and all that stuff. You know, New York is the worst hit in our country. We all know. It's going to be longer for them to get back on track than any other city, clearly. People keep asking for like the answer. What's the answer? What's the timeline? What's the timeline? The good news is that other states and other countries are doing things that, to me, are an experiment that we're having the luxury of watching on the sidelines, even though, again, if it goes bad there, it's going bad here. It's all in your backyard. It's not in my backyard anymore. So we're all going to be able to watch and see. And I think if we see good news, hopefully that good news lasts and doesn't just come back like they're talking about. But again, I don't know what's real or not. I don't know what's hyped and what's not. Part of this felt a lot like, you know, when a storm might be coming, the meteorologist becomes the star of the television set for 5 days leading up to it.
Particularly
on the news. The guy goes from 2 times an hour to the entire hour talking about what's happening, and we're glued to the TV set, and we start stockpiling and doing all those things, and then the storm doesn't come. You still can't really get mad at the guy, because if it did come, and it has in the past, better safe than sorry. Well, in this scenario, it's real. But now the question is, what is really the severity? And that denominator conversation should be a lot louder.
Mm-hmm.
Testing needs to be done. Contact tracing and all that stuff. It seems fairly, I mean, Bill Gates was talking about it last night on CNN for an hour. And at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense. Like, you have to have the testing so you really know how many millions of people have this virus in the world and in America. What is the actual death toll? What is the age group? And if you separate them a bit, protect the people that are at risk, for fuck's sake. The fact that we have like 80% of the deaths are in nursing homes, what's wrong with our nursing homes?
Oh God, Mark, I don't
A
know.
lot.
Oh God, the DMs, and we'll this is the dark part. The DMs that I got when I posted a little something about in regards to the high death rate in nursing homes, and I must have gotten over 20 DMs from people who have some connection to the nursing home world, whether as financiers, a friend of mine who staffs nurses for nursing homes, or people whose parents have had trouble there. That in the entire way that we treat our elderly needs to be rethought, without a doubt. It was pretty dark.
So much reform needs to be done, but at the end of the day, it's right in the smack of that number, right?
Yeah.
Like, I did hear 2 weeks ago, what the death toll was of people under the age of 50, and it was very low, something like 800 or 750 at the time. I'm sure it's gone up.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's true, what's the death toll of the other ages, and why? I really would like to understand. Like, as we're trying to get the states open, I feel like we should have the information that's something positive that can put people a little bit at ease and perspective of it all. One doctor said, like, I sent somebody home on the news. This was, take it for what it's worth. I sent somebody home with pancreatic cancer to live out their life because there's nothing left I can do for them. They got corona, died, and it was listed as a corona death. Now I'm just understanding, like, how many of that is there, or versions of that? And then when do you start talking about, like, the killers of America, that, of heart disease and all the other things that happen to us, and cancers, obviously, that are massive killers, that we still have our economy back. And I'm not one of these people who's like, screw it and just open the economy and see what happens. But I do think perspective is super important once we get the data somewhat accurate, which we're nowhere near, to help with that decision making. Because the only thing that's going to help us all is the court of public opinion feeling good that they can go outside and not feel like the alien outside that's invisible is going to kill you, 50% chance.
Yeah.
Or your parent, or your father, or your mother, or whoever, equal. So a governor, a president can say, yeah, open your restaurant, 50% capacity, and abide by our made-up man rules, man-made rules. I won't do that. And we told our team today quite clearly that we will open again without question. I know that for sure. Catch anyway. The question will be when. And it won't be just because the government says, yeah, you can open 50% capacity. I have no idea if we're going to be at 10% 7 days a week. We'll be out of business before it costs too much to open.
Totally. Yeah.
So you could actually, it's safer to be closed on every level for health reasons and for business reasons. So until the public and the demand is up because of some level of proof and data that they feel comfortable going outside, and sharing space with other people without looking at them like, are you going to kill me? We're sort of screwed, so to speak, in our industry. And people will open because they got to open, and they're whatever, that's their decision, and they might do fine, or they might fail. But for us at our size, 500 seat restaurants, 20,000 square foot place, 10,000 square foot restaurants, 20,000 square foot restaurants, we are going to cautiously wait and intelligently open for when it's good for all. Good for the staff, good for the customers, and ultimately will be good for us.
Absolutely. And then in terms of it being good for everybody, the NBA right now is a bit of a petri dish and a case study in terms of a really confined industry that's trying to figure out, they have a short window, right? You're trying to create a strategy that's going to work for you for a long time. The NBA has a bit of a time. You can take some liberties that they can't, because they want to have.
The NBA is a short window because they're trying to get their season in. But again,
exactly.
that's a
Sure,
That's
but
their situation. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
right.
the point that I'm getting to is that one GM was asked today about how, and just like you said, nobody knows anything. They're realizing that they're figuring this out as they go along. And one GM was quoted on, asked how good a job Adam Silver's doing, and he said, "Man, I mean, he hasn't figured anything out, but Jesus Christ, how difficult is it to govern and lead by consensus in a crisis?" And so in you
It's
being,
impossible.
it's impossible, right?
In a crisis, yeah.
Nevertheless, you've got to account for your employees, you've got to account for your investors, you've got negotiations with landlords to deal with. The landlords have negotiations with banks to deal with, and the banks are going to be governed by the politicians. And there's almost this chain of there's this. It's a dominoes that.
Well, you're describing the economy. It only works when everything is working. You start removing dominoes, nothing falls. So everything is reliant at the end of the day, though, on everybody, the highest amount possible, working, making a dollar, and spending that dollar in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Every industry has to be running at some capacity. The fact that the stock market up is mind-blowing, whatever, it's, again, above my pay grade. I don't get it. Because any one of these scenarios that are going on, oil crisis, uncertainty, job loss, high unemployment, low GDP, any one of them would send any market down. But we've got all five at the same time, plus a freeze and the most uncertainty probably of our lifetime, and it's going up. I can't explain it. No one, maybe someone else can. Good luck.
The stock market appears to have been decoupled from any economic or true fundamentals quite a while ago. So yeah, it's something I don't want to touch it for the moment, and it's stuff that's completely irrational.
No, but the NBA has a challenge. I think I agree. The call to call the season seemed aggressive to me at the time, alarming, but a great call. Probably saved a lot of lives, actually.
Absolutely.
So beyond that, I don't know that you can judge past that. Like they saved a tremendous amount of life by closing when they did, which was premature in many people's opinions because of how many people are in those stands, plus the players, of course, but the stands, I mean, were full with, hundreds of thousands of people. And then the NCAA tournament to follow. The NBA was the brand standard, and people below followed, NCAA, et cetera.
Sure.
Which saved probably a ton of lives, and a lot of the numbers and all that stuff would be probably a lot worse had it gone on even a week longer or 2 weeks longer. Who knows? I think Doc Rivers is on here, so he might have a thought about it. But
and I'd love to dig into it with him at some point. And I think the fundamental point that you're making is that in this situation, decisions need to be made based on less than full data and full information, whether it's decisions to shut down or decisions to open back up. Either one of those needs to be made. People have to be comfortable making that decision without assurance. And so before you say we have this hour, I don't see any reason to stop, but everyone's having a great time. I think we have a lot more to discuss. So do you want to go ahead? I'll stop this live. We'll fire it back up. Everyone can tap back in. I don't see any reason to stop.
I got nothing to do, literally.
Okay.
Except for some Warzone in a little bit.
I love it. Everyone, I'm going to stop this live. I'm going to fire it back up. Everyone tap back in, and we'll continue the conversation.
All right, buddy.
Love it. MB. Cisco, the reason that Cisco, you want to pretend that you took the same approach as Mark did. You did not. I'm sorry, you didn't. You are far more skeptical of the risks associated with the virus than Mark was. That's why our exchange was a little testier. Yes, I love a powerful air conditioning. Sue me. The air conditioning happens to be shaking that plant. I don't know what you want out of me. Yeah, we welcome all MBs. If we can get... Oh, man. I'm going to be getting texted from Cisco for an hour and a half after this. God bless. Dude, how good. God bless that photo. Mark, where are you, baby? There he is. And there he is. Okay. So, okay.
I got the Howard Stern old school in the 1980s there.
Oh,
Photo.
oh, man. I mean, Mark,
Yeah.
watching Howard
Oh,
Stern,
cool. My hero, that one, sort of.
I mean, hey, listen, let's be honest. I mean, not to, start making, not to go on some rants here, but I mean, who did anything better? Watching him give an interview is like watching Picasso paint. It's incredible. The
The
guy's got
best.
mind blowing. Day after day, year after year, he is able to get public figures to open up and have conversations that nobody else is able to get them to have. And they know what they're getting into, and he's still able to get them to open up. It's astonishing.
He's got a real knack and obviously credibility now, so it's easier.
Yeah.
But he's so, well, he asks all the things that traditional media can't and wouldn't get away with.
Yeah.
And people like it because they're people.
So I mean, you're a New Yorker too. You're a New Yorker down to your core, right? You might not know it. I mean, me and my brother. I mean, we're LA kids, but our parents are from New York. We have roots there, and how are you feeling right now as a New Yorker in knowing that the city? I mean, and this is something that people in LA right now and the rest of the country in general, it's a bit of a divide. If you look at the numbers, you look at the impact of the coronavirus. There's New York and New Jersey and the tri-state area, and there's everybody else. And while you're not in New York right now, as a New Yorker, how are you feeling, about the city, about where it's headed, and and from the friends of yours that you've grown up with there, and owning, just landmark restaurants there, and what do you foresee for the future of New York in general?
I'm sad about New York. I'm not surprised because it's so dense and, the nature of the way everyone's on top of each other. It's not a surprise that that's, hit the hardest in the surrounding areas because everyone lives kind of near it and works in New York and goes back home and there it is. I think the future of New York will be fine for the same reason that everyone thought the world was over when September 11th happened in Manhattan. At least the people downtown for sure thought that. And now it's greater than ever. So my money is still on New York. My money will still be on tourism. I can't wait to go to Italy. I can't wait to go to Paris. Nothing about this makes me think I don't want to go there.
Yeah,
Actually, the opposite. I can't wait to go there and support them to a
absolutely.
degree. I don't, people have short-term memories. It's a fact. They love to forget and just go on. We do it in death. We do it in bad news. It's just like there's so many examples of it that it's not even a question in my mind, for better or for worse. So yeah, this too shall pass. And in the scheme of time, it's a short time. New York will be fine. Will there be people that say, "Oh, I can't wait to get out of New York because it's, dirty," or because if this happens again, I'm gonna leave? Yeah. And people said that about terrorism too. I'll
Yeah.
never take a subway again. There they were. I'll never go to a big sporting event. There they are.
And another territory that you guys it's a little newer for you guys, but you've had some time to marinate on, and is a unique example itself, is Vegas. Have you been having some conversations around Vegas? Any information that you're getting about that
Yeah.
market? Love to hear
Vegas is like everybody in the same sort of boat of turmoil and confusion and unknown. But the problem with Vegas is obviously that it's a massively reliant on tourism and outside of the state coming in, domestically especially. So, well, and also from China, of course. But
it.
the feeder markets are really America and the surrounding states. And it's not just about people that go to the restaurants, the casinos, and for the leisure traveler, but it's a major, major group business with the conventions there. And the amount of business that we do on Sundays and Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, almost 100% rely on what what convention's in town. And the bigger the convention, the busier we are.
Yeah.
The occupancy flies up off peak days, and that's the business of Las Vegas. Casinos, of course, and their revenue are important too, but I don't think it compares for the restaurants specifically to convention business coming back. And of course, the shows and all the things that come with it. But again, not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I just have to accept it and understand that things will be shitty for a while and then they'll get better. It's not the best answer, and it's not a timeline that I can stand on, but it's an answer that I can live with because I don't think it's going to be forever, and I also don't think it's going to be so long that everything falls to shit. I just refuse to believe that. Because, by the way, we're 6 weeks in now in terms of what we've kind of been discussing, like from the news of the NBA stopping and quarantine starting. I think it's been 6 weeks.
Yeah.
If I ask 10 people, you included, or people that want to comment on whatever, do you feel better today than you did 6 weeks ago about the whole situation? I think most people say yes. I feel less freaked out. I feel a little bit more comfortable to go to a market or do basic things that I was totally against doing 4 weeks ago. So if that's true 6 weeks later, I look forward to the next 6 weeks and the improvement from here and the 6 weeks after that. And unless something horrible happens that is unforeseen at this moment, and I don't know how much worse it can get, this is not some flesh-eating crazy thing that's just killing everybody, okay? So when everything calms down and the narrative again on the news, which is the craziest news cycle of all time, with the highest ratings they've ever had on every news station, they talk about it, things will get better. They are already better. The numbers are better. The hospitals are emptier, or if not empty. Things are starting to slowly get back, state by state, country by country. And as long as things don't completely hit the fan and go backwards, which I guess could happen, but if it doesn't and we stay slowly but surely, we will be better in every category. And there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, there will likely be more deaths, which is the worst there is, right? The death is the worst. Businesses, economy, it's bad, but it's not death. As long as you see those things going down, mentality will go up, and then the news cycle will have to change because people will get sick of it.
Yeah.
And therefore, things will get better sooner than later, as they always have, even in wartime, where things seem the worst. Bombs dropping, Holocausts happened, things still came back.
No, listen, I was a little younger than you when the last downturn happened in 2008, and I hadn't got a stop. I went to law school, so I was barely even had even involved myself in any career. I was like right out of the gate, and boom, 2008 happens. And when you're in it, and when you're young and you don't have that experience, it does seem like the end of the world, and it seems like something that no matter if you've read it in history books, like you're not necessarily going to recover. And if anyone looked at the atmosphere, felt the atmosphere in March, April, May 2008, even through 2009, and saw what America, how America rebounded from 2012, 13 through this experience, it's pretty astonishing. And I think people have to keep that in mind. That yes, this is an experience of first impression, and it's hard and it's difficult. But there is really something unique about American resiliency, and we have to count on that, and not count on that because it's some airy principle. Count on that because it's in our operating history, because it's the smart thing to count on.
America's resilient. I think people are resilient. I don't, in every, modern country, every example is they come back stronger than before. And that's really the bottom line of all of this. And I don't want to take away from, again, the pain and suffering of the people that lost family members and loved ones and all that stuff. I'm not insensitive to that at all. And I have them myself, friends that are, in dire straits at this very moment. but the world and the country and the cities will all come back and will be okay in a short time in the grand scheme.
Absolutely. Let's go back to some, a little bit more so about, your views and your approach as an entrepreneur and doing what you do and creating what you've created. And we've talked about it. Does the consumer determine taste and culture, or does the club owner or the restaurant owner do so? Or is it symbiotic?
Does what? I'm sorry, what was the first part? What?
Who is the consumer? Is the
the
business?
Consumer.
Yeah. Is the business owner and the entrepreneur and the restaurateur following the consumer, or are they creating culture and creating experiences? And how? And you touched on it a little bit. How are you with your governing philosophy, and when you do, what governs even you coming down to what aesthetic you choose for what city you decide to open up in, or what aesthetic you choose for your venue? How do you kind of put your thumb to the wind and figure out, and make these decisions in terms of taste and be so on top of what people want, what the very demanding, like you're not doing things easy. You're not looking for you're not looking to deal with easy consumers. You're dealing with people who are demanding, and how do you get in front of that to deal with demanding consumers and customers?
It's a bit of both. Consumers obviously liking what we come up with is a huge indicator of what we're doing, and we have to pivot immediately if it doesn't go the way we think it should go. We're inventive, but we're not too inventive. We're pioneer, but not too pioneer. Like, we do something different, but we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We take what people like from other restaurants and other menus and ideas that in other countries and what we personally like, and riff on that. Again, we think that it's a multi-pronged approach to our restaurants. It's not just about the food, and it's certainly not just about the fun. In our opinion, restaurateurs, true restaurateurs, or fine dining, chef-driven restaurants, which are great in what they do, are very good at doing that food, but they're not very good at the fun, or the vibe, as we call it. And vibey restaurants often are thought of as, it's fun, but the food's not great. And we've done our very best to bridge that to be great food and great vibe, and of course great service. But where we fall in, and I think our success has been that some people, some compliments that we've gotten would be, I love this place, and the food doesn't have to be this good. And I'm like, well, actually, I think it does have to be that good, but I appreciate the thought. Meaning, you've got such a fun spot here. The fact that the food's great is, a bonus, but I look at it like, you lead with the food first, because I never liked going to a restaurant where it was fun and shitty food. It never lasts. It never did last. I can't think of many restaurants that have lasted with just fun and shitty products. So we've spent a lot of time and experience and energy and research and brain damage on doing those two things well. And I think that it's worked, not because we think so, but because Catch in New York is in its 9th year, and our best year was last year.
Really?
Sales. Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Well, for a restaurant, it is. Yeah. And so what we think is no longer just a guess, or we hope it's to us proven, which enabled us to go ahead and open a massive restaurant 2 blocks away at Catch Steak and not hurt the restaurant that's 9 years old 2 blocks away when the world was good.
And not even an entirely different brand, an overlapping brand.
Yeah, and that was a big debate too.
New
name or not.
Give us a little insight into that debate. Give us a peek, to the extent that you're comfortable, into that debate.
At first, I really was on the other side of it. I felt that it was confusing, and I thought that we really should come up with a new name to differentiate. And I was afraid that it would get lost in the confusion, or we'll just go to the other Catch instead of that one. It's the same thing. That's the newer one. Screw it. And Eugene and I went back and forth on it quite a bit. And he was really of the mindset of like, we've worked so hard to establish the brand Catch. Would you not go to Nobu Steak? Probably would. because you believe Nobu.
Interesting.
You know,
Interesting.
you believe that they're great at what they do. So whatever they're giving you, I think you'd believe it. And the differential of seafood and steak is natural. I could argue both sides quite easily why it would be better or worse. But it's true, like the Instagram is one word, catch. It's just we didn't do catch steak, catch LA, catch New York, whatever. It's all one thing because the amount of effort it takes to tell people that you exist is so difficult that to start it all over again and create a whole new brand with a new name that no one knows anything about. It's true that when we say come to catch steak, I don't really have to tell you much about it. You already know what you're going to get. And if
Yeah.
you like it, if you like catch as what we represent, and some people don't, or most do, I hope, then you're willing to go there. But at the same time, we evolved with catch steak versus catch in terms of, steak is a little bit more of a sophistication to it. So it's the grown version of catch, we say. We're all grown up.
And I mean, it's an ambitious space, man. I mean, you're trying to do a half a dozen different things under one roof. I mean, even just that first walkthrough. This is the private room. This is a bit more of a dance space. This is more of a traditional dining room. I mean, it was very ambitious. And I mean, you've been able, I imagine that takes a unique level of employee training to coordinate amongst all those different dynamics within the same venue.
Yeah, you got to break them up into different little cities, It's like different areas, different floors. We're really looking forward to the spring and summertime where we have this amazing amount of outdoor space with retractable roofs and open terraces and all that stuff at stake. We also have that in LA, obviously, and at Catch OG. But we will see it soon enough. I think actually it will play into our favor, obviously, with outdoor seating in the warm weather during this emergency, as we've been calling it, because naturally people feel better outside, right? You see people hanging out outside. You don't see them sitting in a sauna together or indoors as much right now. So just the natural thought of like, oh, I'm outside, there's wind or whatever. So,
Sure.
and of course the sun, that cures everything. So,
Yeah, we'll see.
but
We're gonna find out.
but these are advantages, and other advantages are the fact that we do have so much space that we can, take in the capacity of Catch Steak is 1,000 people. So if it's at 50%, that means we can do 500 people at a time, in theory, 2 servings or 3 perhaps. So if the demand is there, we can separate people throughout 2 floors and lots of space at all of the restaurants. So they can sit comfortably, still get the taste of the energy or the boom that we called it when everything was normal. It's something, but if I had 100 people, sitting in front of me and I said, show a raise of hands who wants to get out there and like hang out a little bit. I don't care who you are. I would think almost 100% of the people would love to do that. So if we can give them a safe environment to do so, I'm a big believer in that it will come back, with great success.
For sure. Let's get into, there's aspects of marketing for a consumer brand in the modern age that seem, because a lot of things are filtered through social media, they kind of feel frivolous, but they're actually really critical, right? One, for instance, my buddy Josh's ad, Alfred Coffee. At his wedding, while shroomed out of my mind, and I take a photo with the guy and I posted and I said, this is my friend Josh, who was the first guy who thought, hey, let me put some quotes up on a wall and I'll get thirsty fashion bloggers to take pictures of it and give me free marketing. And you want to know something? That's what he did. He put quotes up on the wall and he knew that his first location was in the middle of where all the fashion bloggers were. And they gave him an insane amount of free marketing and shareable content through taking and posting pictures of those comments on the wall. You guys did something very similar with the dessert and hitting the dessert. And that's something that you can say, hey, it's just a dessert and it's a little novelty with the dessert item. You guys appear to have gotten massive, immeasurable marketing value out of having a shareable item like that. And I mean, listen, am I interpreting this incorrectly? I'd love to hear the thinking behind that and what your marketing philosophy is in terms of those types of things.
we are of the, I guess, younger generation in comparison to, the people before us, of what we thought would be relevant in opening a restaurant. Um, Social media started to become more and more powerful as we opened different restaurants. Not so much Catch OG 9 years ago, but certainly with Catch LA, it was like you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
So beyond just the hit me dessert, which is a very popular dessert that everyone wants to take a photo of or a video of and hit it and whatever and tag it, which is free advertising, obviously. But it's authentic, right? Like, I wasn't interested in creating something that wasn't a good tasting dessert. We wanted the best dessert we could come up with, and if it was interactive, great, that people would take videos and take pictures of, and it would be fun for them, and then we do the big ones for birthdays, whatever. But taking it a few steps further was, some restaurants create things called the Instagram moment, which is now a over-the-top something. Ours was really just the entryway of Catch LA, which turned out to be the most Instagrammed restaurant photo in the country, according to, whatever Instagram, which, you can talk right past and sort of almost be like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. But actually, it's a huge deal, because first of all, if you're number one Instagrammed anything, you're very successful, likely, right? If I'm the number one Instagram popularity girl who does makeup, she's a billionaire at 20 something years old.
Yeah. Yes.
So to dismiss it as ridiculous is sort of, well, then you're just a hater, or you're missing it.
Or you're just not living in reality and not
or it's not your thing, right? Like, it's fine. Like, people are very anti Instagram, they're very anti popularity, and that's fine.
I think
to each
there's
their own.
this fine line where you can say, this isn't my taste, but I understand that this is how society operates right now. And then there's this kind of excessive defiance that they want to keep on denying that this is how things work right now. And that,
if you're a 500-seat restaurant, a 400-seat restaurant, you won't succeed unless you have thousands of people a day, a week, thousands. I haven't done the math in a while, but we serve hundreds of thousands of people a year. The only way you can do that is that people know that you exist, and God forbid people said good things about it authentically to tell their friends and family that are outside of our circle. My example has always been, our job is to take the largest rock that we can find and throw it as hard as we can into that lake and get the rings to go as far out as humanly possible. Because the bad days of my restaurant business was where I knew everybody in the restaurant on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. I said hello to every table because I knew them all by name. Problem with that is that we didn't go much beyond that. So that was not good. What was good is when we walked through Catch on a Sunday or Monday or Tuesday into a busy restaurant, and I didn't know anyone. I thought we had a chance of being successful in the restaurant business, because the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday business is everything. And if you don't have it, your Thursday, Friday, Saturday will just carry you to break even.
Yeah.
And if you know everybody, I don't care who you are, you can't succeed off of your close friends and 1 degrees. I need total strangers coming here that I don't know and loving it for their own reasons, and I need to give them reasons to do that, and then to tell a friend and make it easier for them. So that, to a degree, when I went to Miami, a big inspiration of mine was not the obvious Prime 112s and Nobus, and they were great and everything, and they had lines, and I was always like, wow, what an amazing business these guys have back in the day. But it was actually that restaurant on the rooftop on Lincoln Road called, blah, 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 blah. It's blanking on me all of a sudden. Someone tell me. The rooftop restaurant on Lincoln Road. Do you remember it? Anyway, that restaurant, you gotta go, what was it called?
I'm only on Miami, so my Miami knowledge is getting there, but it's not there yet. Who's Silverman? Silverman's got a little more Miami presence than people even realize.
Juvia, right? Juvia. So when someone said, like, hey, where do I go in Miami? The obvious answer always was go to Prime 112, go to Nobu, and maybe some other place. But Juvia was always on my list because it wasn't because the owners were people that we knew or the food was even all that, insane. it was just such a beautiful, special thing that I knew that if I recommended someone to go there as one of their stops in their 3 nights, they would be psyched and they would thank and appreciate for the recommendation. And I thought that, like, you know, if we could do that, if where people that we didn't know would come to our restaurant and enjoy the atmosphere alone and say, wow, it's so pretty. It's just like an escape. You don't see this every day and you don't see it in your backyard. And we can be that much of a thing that people would recommend because it's unique. Rooftop, outdoor space, flowers, pretty, long entranceway, and large. We would have longevity because people would do the work for us. I can't, there's only so many things I could say, come to catch, come to catch, come to catch. It becomes brutal. But when other people do that, you have a chance. And some people do that with their food, obviously. We try to do it with everything. Food service vibe. But the vibe and the beauty and the whole thing, you know, the wall downstairs of all those faces on the wall in LA was just a thing that people like taking pictures from and stare at the wall and remember it, and you know that you're walking into something. It was just like our homage to like an LA experience, but it became, you know, something that people really like.
That feels very inspired by the Palm. Was that
a little bit? Yeah, actually, yeah. Yes. We originally were like, can we do caricatures of all of our customers that are regulars?
Yeah.
Because we believe that they would come and take pictures of themselves and tell the world about it.
And it's incredible.
But the Palm did that.
Yeah.
And it was great. And I remembered it from when I was a child, going there and looking at the wall and all these people's names. I looked at people that had, like, you know, nameplates on a table and those kind of things. This was a version of that. Yeah. And there's a lot of our customers and friends on that wall mixed in with celebrities of old and dead and young and alive and whatever. But you know, everybody likes looking at it and spotting the old Hulk Hogan or, the Johnny Five of Short Circuit is in there. You know, it's like the 80s throwbacks and a lot of Tori, if you're watching.
Oh, do you know my buddy Kenny? The best Wall of Fame story. Do you know my buddy Kenny Hamilton? Do you know Kenny?
Yeah, of course I know Kenny Hamilton.
Oh,
yeah,
Kenny's the fucking best, man. All right, so this is all right. Are you familiar with a Korean barbecue restaurant called Parks Barbecue? You may have not. May have not been in LA long enough to.
I know Quarters. Does that count?
Okay. All right. The best Wall of Fame story of all time is. So Parks Korean Barbecue, really good Korean barbecue, but very authentic on Vermont and Wilshire. I go there, you know, it's got a really interesting Wall of Fame. I'm looking around, it's, you know, look at Keanu Reeves and Magic Johnson and Dr. Dre and your boy Marlon Wayans. Right below Marlon Wayans, Kenny Hamilton. I'm like, all right, Kenny, that's fucking great. I'm honored to be friends with someone who's got, you know, their picture on the wall at Parks Barbecue. Finally, you know, I have a conversation with Kenny. I'm like, man, give me the story behind that. He's like, all right. Scooter was involved with the Korean artist Psy, Gangnam Style. And Psy, when he'd come to LA, in Koreatown, I mean, he's Hernando Courtright at a Lower East Side hipster bar, you know, out of control. Anyways, so they'd go to Korean barbecue. And so essentially they went to Parks Korean Barbecue. Psy from Gangnam Style told the owner of Parks Korean Barbecue, you don't have enough black people up on that wall. You need to have Kenny up on that wall. And they took a picture of Kenny Hamilton, and that's how he got the picture up on the wall. From fucking Psy of Gangnam Style.
Who'd have thought? What a contribution.
Psy has made so many contributions to our society. I don't know where it begins, where it ends. I don't know.
I think the happiest person about that story other than Kenny is Hernando, I see.
Without a doubt. Well, listen, I mean, Hernando, he's a legacy. His mom discovered the guy who sang Eye of the Tiger, Jimmy Jameson. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not, unfortunately, no.
Yeah. If we dig deep into the Hernando Courtright, and this is the next segment of us getting to it, we can talk some shit about our, you know.
Well, he was our assistant out of college, so I'm sure he likes to know that.
All right. Give us the history of Hernando Courtright.
I love Hernando. Hernando, I talked to him yesterday, actually. He was very excited that I play Warzone. I'm going to add him tonight.
All right. Wait,
Hernando's a great kid. Great.
He's a great guy.
He's not a kid anymore. I always think of him as a skinny kid.
He's still a skinny kid. He's very lengthy.
Not as skinny as he used to be, like me. Yes, look who it is.
Tori.
It's wine o'clock.
That's a hell of a Jesus Christ, man.
We don't really drink rumors. We just talk about it like we love it. We don't actually want to drink it. Got the good stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, let's
Thanks,
move
Boo.
on. What's she been doing? She's been in the other room.
She's in the other room commenting with the rest of my crazy friends who are having a
Yeah.
fun time.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, Bayat. This was Bayat's return from
Oh,
Bayat.
this is Barry Byatt's moment to shine.
Absolutely.
I
You
wish I
know,
could post a photo of the hair of his that I saw today. It was wild. I'll do it. Don't worry.
I'm a week away from not being able to be on camera any longer. Okay, it's
He is
not
the
happening.
Jewfro of all Jewfros for a non-Jew. It's unbelievable.
God damn it. Yeah, yeah. What is what Bayat? All right, all right. Wait, Mike Silverman. Okay,
He's an enigma,
Bayat is an enigma wrapped in a conundrum. He's a fucking
completely.
evil.
We
Yeah,
could
he's
spend
like.
a lot of time on that, but we won't give him the satisfaction.
I mean, he's got a lot of coverage in the comment section. There's no doubt about it. I
The
think
most I've
everyone.
ever seen. Having more fight. This is clearly someone who's got nothing to do either, which is fine. We all don't.
Who the fuck has anything? Who's writing the great American novel? Jesus Christ, nobody's doing anything right now. All right, wait. Let's talk some Silverman for a second. You've really adopted Mike Silverman. I mean, you know, he's under your. You have. It's just a fact. I mean, I don't know how he's not officially sponsored by Nike. He hasn't worn anything that doesn't have a Schwartz symbol on it in going on 6-7 years.
Mike's best
now.
Friday night outfit is like a tight fit, dry fit shirt.
Yeah, yeah. He loves the.
He's the sports agent through and through. It doesn't matter. He wants, if he meets an NBA player, he wants the NBA player to relate to him in some way, and it's clearly not his height. So he's going to go with the
From the
outfit.
comments, I feel like Barry is thinking that maybe Mike is filling the Barry Byatt void.
There's
Barry
no one
Byatt.
more jealous of Mike Silverman than Barry Byatt. Keeps eating all his free food. It's making him nuts.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll see that. Who knows? Maybe there's a battle to the death to be had. I don't know. Maybe we take this to the golf course. The Andy Belinsky, Mike Silverman, Stephen Schaefer quadrant have really embraced the golf course. Who ends up? What's the pecking order there? You know, you described it a little bit to me. You had a big week. You've done pretty well recently on the golf course. How does that go?
Well, for me, I mean, I started 2 years ago because I moved out to LA and I never picked up a golf club before until recently, but I love it. Gets me outside. I really enjoy it. And then you get better and better, which is nice. Silverman's the best on the course because he started when he was a kid in high school and he's a great athlete. Barry claims that he's played golf, just like he claims a lot of things that I've never seen. But we're waiting for Barry to come back. I'm actually playing with Doc tomorrow, so I'll see him out tomorrow.
Love that. Love that.
We're going to socially distance for the NBA fans. No worries. We're going to head out to Oak Quarry, about an hour away, to play some golf. But golf is a really cool social activity, I have to say. Like, if you can get good enough to play with anybody, regardless of your handicap, you know, and you don't embarrass yourself and you don't slow it down, you can play with anybody. It's a nice way to have like an adult camaraderie, you know, even with people that you wouldn't necessarily go to dinner with or have over, whatever. But there's something about like, oh, you play golf? I play golf. You play golf? Let's play. Because everyone's always looking for someone to play with. So it's a nice thing to meet. And big shout to UGP for getting me course ready. Parkovich is on here. Big Matt at UGP. We'll be back soon, hopefully. He's my coach, Schaefer's coach. I think he's a lot of people's coach, but he's a great teacher.
Very nice. Real quick, this skipped my mind. You know, you also segue into another, what has
Johnny O, Best and Brown. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
People do not historically think of fitness studios as tangential or adjacent to nightlife, but now in the modern day, with marketing of consumer brands kind of all funneled through Instagram and social media, these are now related businesses. And you guys have Rumble, correct?
Yeah, Rumble's another business that, you know, Eugene really took the lead on and is running that ship at the moment. Again, it's another extension of what is our demographic looking to do now, and going to, you know, the Soul Cycle type things, Barry boot camps of the world is very popular. Rumble came out and took off like, I think the hottest thing that I've actually ever seen in a new small business ever.
Yeah.
Whether one day is worth $1 billion or not, major credit to a business that, you know, took what is obvious, group fitness, popular, put its own spin on it, added, you know, the flavor of the great music and the vibe, turned it into a bit of a club experience, a social experience. The trainers have personalities, and people love it.
You know what I noticed the time that I went to, I mean, it is just, it's so tight. The timing is perfect. The experience is perfect. Every minute's accounted for. And obviously a lot of people with boutique fitness studios are trying to do that everything is, you know, feels very regimented, but still fun. And Rumble really, really executes on that well.
Yeah, it hits on a lot of different, you know, relevant things that are going on right now. You know, there was a lot of social media along with it. It was a modern version of what SoulCycle was in Barry's boot camp, I found.
For sure.
And it fit, and it ticked every box that people enjoyed. It's not too hard. It's not too intimidating. It's pretty easy to follow. It's fun. And again, you know, things are personality run or driven. Our restaurant is personality driven. It's not about me and Eugene. It's about everybody in our environment being consistent. And we have the cheers mentality. Cheers mentality being everyone knows your name. The hostess stand, security guards, bathroom attendants, servers, chefs. Everybody that you see and touch really has personality, and it defines who we are as a brand. And we have our way of doing it, but it's been great.
Barry seems to be suggesting that you punching a punching bag is not that impressive a sight. I don't know.
Well, I add that to the list of things that Barry claims he used to do. Box. The guy was a boxer, a huge gambler, a party guy, a bottle buyer, a dancer, a golfer, apparently a tennis player, which is not. It's unbelievable. You should have seen me. Well, at 100 years old, I missed it. You know, so he's, you know, but in his day, as he likes to talk about, which was literally 90 years ago, he was killing it in all ways. But yes, he hits the bag as an ex-boxer better than most. Kudos to Barry. Don't get me started on Barry. He'll never sign on again.
I don't know, man. I mean, we got 22 more minutes till we're at the end of hour 2. All right. We got.
Well, I don't want to kill people,
Barry.
but yeah, no. Silverman, I love. A good person. There's Danny Volk in there and Albert Braha. If you really want to laugh, just watch Albert Braha. Just in every way, shape, or form. The Braha brothers are just the greatest.
Phenomenal segue.
Eric Marks, I see you.
How do the Brahas play into your life? How are they? Because
we all met through Danny Volk. Ultimately, Danny Volk is the epicenter of the Braha connection, the Silverman connection, the Belinsky connection.
I didn't even know he's part of my connection.
You gotta thank or not thank. I don't know, whichever. But Danny Volk.
Okay, so Danny Volk, me and you, obviously, we have to spend some quality time once the situation calls for it. I'm going to tell you how I know Albert Braha. Okay, because it's really.
We are reaching. Tim Cash is correct. We are reaching. If the subject gets onto the Brahas, maybe we need to end this interview. No, I love Albert. His 80 days and 80 nights or whatever it was in Mykonos, I was there for 15 or 20 of them. And then I had friends that like tagged in and tagged out. It was not a pretty sight. The guy was living on other people, like locals' couches. You guys, no shame.
All right. So I was one of those.
Shout to Amber. Hi.
Yeah. So I've heard, you know, whatever, here a little Braha, here a little Braha there. Mykonos about 2 years ago, a friend of mine, he's like, hey, I'm getting a fucking villa for the entire month of July in Mykonos, come stay with me, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm planning on going. Literally, Krish Menon, love Krish Menon, shout out to Krish, he's been very, very generous to me. But however, maybe 72 hours before I'm about to fly to Mykonos, he's like, fuck, Matt, I've won some award for my business, like, Black can't be, I gotta push the trip, I'm not going to Mykonos for a week and a half. I'm like, all right, that's interesting, but now I don't know where the fuck I'm going to stay, and I'm going to Mykonos in 72 hours.
Danny's pointing out, as is Tim, that we're losing listeners the more we talk about Braha and Danny.
Are you kidding me?
It's over.
Do you know how good for a person as not famous as me?
We went from 150 to 95 just by mentioning the word Braha. I don't know if that's a... Tim, tell me more. Yeah, long story
Anyway,
short, the Braha went completely nuts and lost his mind, but now he's back in the box. He's all right.
no, I was going to Mykonos. I had nowhere to stay. I'm going 48 hours, and I'm nowhere. Every hotel's sold out. Maybe I can get some fucking like a clay hut, down on the non-party side of town, far away from Alamagoo. Luckily, by the grace of God, I see that this guy Albert Braha, who I've maybe talked to once in my life, is like, he's in Mykonos. I'm like, dude, what are you doing there? He's like, what is it? Oh man, Maddie, yeah. Oh shit, I'm out here for the summer. Yeah, I got this bungalow. If you want to come out here, I got a little extra space. And so that's it. I only know Albert Braha because I caught him on Instagram that he was in Mykonos with a bungalow, and I
I'm
had
sure it
nowhere to
changed
stay.
your life.
Listen, I've never been the same since, not having anything to do with Albert Braha. Yeah, even Albert, something, we stemmed the tide. We were about to start dropping below 90, and we're now back up because Mykonos is
I
always.
need Tori to come back to get these followers back up, or else it's over.
But Tori's been we put our thumb on the scale with Tori on it. She's really
The unicorn Jew.
Will Macris, Albert actually charged me a reasonable rate, but what happened was after his brother came, he's like, just get the fuck out. Sorry, I can't. I had to go. Luckily, DJ Politic was coming a few days into my trip and had a hotel room, but then he had to delay his trip a couple days, so I was able to take his hotel room for a couple. Yeah, so that's how the Brahas filter into my life, and
They're good
Albert,
guys.
they're
Ricky
good
was my
guys.
tennis partner. We dominated.
Yeah, no, he eats a lot of gefilte fish. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Joey's making masks. He's doing good deeds.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Anyway,
All
but
right.
yeah, all good dudes. I like seeing them. Just even if it's just to talk shit on here, it's a fun time.
100%. Steven Schaefer, he's part of the golf crew.
Schaefer is part of the golf crew, part of the Call of Duty crew. It's
The golf.
essential.
What's this Call
Golf
of
and
Duty
Call of
crew?
Duty. This is like the things that we've found ways to
How
hang
deep-
out is on Call of Duty.
How deep are you in the Call of
I
Duty?
mean, I'm embarrassed to admit how deep it is. It's like a
All right.
nightly thing till very late. It's horrible. It's also the greatest thing ever to be created. I don't know what to say about that.
Okay, well, Dean
Greatest
Dean
worst thing of all time.
No, understood that Dean Geislinger is definitely getting aggressive in the comments, but I'm sorry, Dean, I can't take anyone with that many underscores in their Instagram name that seriously.
But you'll notice that as soon as we got off Braha, we've gone up in following.
My man.
All right, how do we bring this full circle? The full circle would be,
all right, is
the world coming to an end? No.
No, listen.
My professional, humble, not really relevant opinion, it is not coming to an end at all. It is a tough time for many, including myself. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's never meant more than it does now. You have to be smart, cautious, and slow with the recovery. I don't think anybody should argue with that. And realize that perspective is important, to know what's really going on versus just the media just killing us.
Yeah.
With bad news.
They're engineering. They're
excessive.
engineering a lot of this. It's part of their, just like we've talked about your business, their business is engineering hysteria, fear, and negativity to get people.
It's great for ratings, as you can see. And
Yeah.
it's great for the election, of the current situation, president. It's horrible, but also it's inevitable. The more chaos, the less, people are watching anyone else but his situation. So we'll see how it plays out. I can only leave it with this. We will be back. We will be back stronger than ever in time. And I'm looking forward to it more than anything in this whole world, actually, of just being able to fly to see my family, have our customers back in, having the best time ever. People ask me, what do you love most about the restaurant business? And honestly, it's when we first open a new restaurant, standing off to the side, watching people walk into that room, explore it, experience it, and come back for the second time, and the sound of cheers and glasses and, servers and the buzz of the room. It's like a stadium. And all these people loving their night out, which at the end of the day, to me, is so essential to our life and how we live, the restaurant experience, big or small, is a conversation we have every single day. More now than ever, by the way. It seems like all we talk about is, what are we having for dinner tonight? Are we cooking? Are we ordering in? But it's all we really do. We sleep and we eat, and then everything else in between is the essentials that we have to do to just sleep and eat better.
Just get to those experiences that lift our soul up.
We sleep, we eat, and how we do it is very important. So the social aspect of the eating experience is what we do. And we believe we do it well. And we think that people will be excited to come back to it, regardless of the risks of the day, slowly but surely, and we will go back to normal. I think that is the message that I can communicate to everybody that either works for us or dines with us, is that we will see you again soon, sooner than you think, and it will be okay. Sleep, eat, clip, yeah.
Mark, listen, I think sometimes people even people who do dive into the experiences that you create can sometimes almost take for granted that you, and like you said, just to start off our discussion tonight, you haven't worked a day for 20 years now. You haven't really worked a day because you love what you do so much, because it is really inherent to the human experience of how much people enjoy being together, eating, laughing, enjoying a good time. And people can look at it from a business perspective. People can look at it as something that is, people doing frivolous things, having fun, but it's really what people live for. And so I wanted to say thank you for discussing this with us tonight, for being so transparent, for giving us a little insight into how you think and how you created what you have created, and for bringing these experiences to people, because they are what people live for. And, and I want to make sure that people who put their neck on the line and put all this effort and mind share into creating this are appreciated for it. So really wanted to thank you, my man.
Well, I appreciate it. And I look forward to having you in person in the restaurant in any state that we are open soon, or we can do a New York, LA, Vegas move and enjoy our lives. Thanks to all of my friends for being completely annoying at the bottom of this thing, which has been very distracting. My parents are on here. My dad just said, great job, Sonny Boy, the only one that I actually give a shit about whose opinion. And we can sign off if you'd like, or we could just start all over again. The numbers are going up. Again, we said Danny Volk, Silverman, Eric Marks, Braha.
Oh my God.
Nosedive. It really just started with Barry, and then it was just Barry. Oh, Jamie Rubin. There you go. Silver Spoon. Stop talking. All right. I will talk to you all later. Warzone time, boys. Let's get into it.
All right. First of all, I love seeing your girl represent for you. She's supporting you in the comments right now. That's awesome.
Corey Praver says, Mark, you're a sex symbol. I need to screenshot that and just live with that and be happy.
You have your girl. You have your non-chic supermodel fiance.
The saddest thing is that we were planning a wedding on we had like a schedule to go to tour places in Napa on I think it was April 4th was the date that we were going to go. That's the toughest part. We were really on a good trajectory, and it got slowed down.
You're a fucking resilient guy. You guys are going to put it together. Tori is incredibly supportive of you, and it's something that all of us tragically single guys should aim for. So I look forward to what you guys put together, and another amazing experience you guys create. All I have is Brick Williams supporting me, telling you that I should be on the wall at the next catch, and whatever.
I've never heard that before.
Huh?
I never heard that before.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
I like playing golf with your brother, by the way. He's a good golfer. He's got a crazy swing.
He's a good kid, man. I lucked out.
You got a cool brother, good family.
Appreciated, my man.
Big shout to Jan Silverman, and if you ever need your home organized, she will do it for you better than anything. That's Mike's mom.
Okay, guys.
Will Macris, big shout to the New Yorker who stayed up late, by the way, and his restaurant Lola, which will be coming back.
That's a name, Will Macris. That's a name I've heard bandied about. I don't think he and I have ever.
You're missing out. He's one of the nicest people in the whole world, honestly.
He's great. Like an Eric Marks, I've got a little FaceTime with, like a Tim Cash. But like Will Macris, I've seen. I know he's relevant to your world, and I think I've got to get more exposure. So I love bringing our two worlds together tonight. That's been great. I feel like we're all more powerful.
We got some East Coasters and West Coasters on there. I'm happy to see it. But I
Absolutely.
miss them all very much. And then at the end of the day, I like the comments and stuff. They're, they like to bust balls, but that's what we do. And if any one of them was speaking, I would probably be my thumbs would hurt. But man, what I wouldn't do to all be sitting around talking shit to each other at a dinner table like we've done every single day practically for the last decade. That's what it's been. We just
Tori,
sit and go to work and talk shit about everything around a dinner table. And I know that everybody loves doing that. So I'm looking forward to doing it again.
absolutely. From your mouth to God's ears, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be inspiring. It's going to lift everyone's fucking soul into the heavens. And I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's
Mark,
get into the war zone. I'm getting harassed. Well, because there's a
listen,
loadout coming into the quarry. I prefer to go to the boneyard. That's a whole different
wait,
conversation.
real quick, Mark. What's this buffs thing that I keep on seeing in the comments?
Yeah, see, now there's certain things that we reserve for the codes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But there are buffs that don't buff. They're just a different complication. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to earning the whatever the secret password is to understand.
There's so many. If everybody on here would just write some secret codes, it would be quite bizarre, but it is where it is.
Well, it would be. My bladder is about to explode.
All right, let it fly, my friend.
Let it fly. Mark,
And
thank
in
you
the
once
words
again.
of Tori's son, Phoenix, who's now almost 4, if you pee on it, you own it. I'll talk to you later.
Perfect.
He likes saying
Thank you,
that. It's a
brother.
very funny thing. All right, see you later.
Talk to you later, my man.
Bye.
Perfect.
Thanks, bro.
Bye.